Well, now I want to turn to Phil Edholm again. Phil does our, every 2 weeks, does one of our segments on NMRA divisions and local clubs. I really think this is an important part of our show because it's at local clubs and divisions where you're really going to be able to get one-on-one personalized mentoring help. And frankly, that's what this show is all about, trying to provide the kind of techniques and information you need to improve your modeling and to make you happier with the final outcome that you have from trying to build a model. So Phil, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. I have a great group tonight. I'm joined tonight by the LA Model Railroad Society. And guys, if you'll unmute, that way it turns out you pop up to the top of my little list here. There's Lloyd. And I want to let you guys all kind of jump in and make sure I've got everybody here. Am I missing anybody?
That's it.
That's it. So Lloyd and Marty are from the Los Angeles Model Railroad Society. And I had a little intro, but I decided it's probably better just let you guys describe, your club and what you're doing and talk a little bit about it. And I thought it was really interesting in terms of some of the challenges they face. So Lloyd, go ahead.
Okay. Marty's going to start off the presentation. I'll pick it up later, and then we'll both be available for any questions. Please hold your questions towards the end. If it's really pressing and you just got to ask it, okay. Marty, take it away.
All right. Okay, you're seeing my screen. That's good. All right, very good. Yes. So Lloyd is the first vice president, and I am the second vice president of the club. So you get two vice presidents instead of one president. So I think the club president is busy at this particular time. He's got too many kids of the wrong age, and they're all busy doing all those activities. So we're going to give the presentation here. A lot of contributions from other members. You see them listed here. But we are the Los Angeles Model Railroad Society. The club has been in existence since the 70s and was in one location for about 27 years. And kind of the theme of today's presentation is kind of what happened and what we did after we lost our location. So we're going to go into that story. It's the focus of what we're going to talk about. So we had a 2,100 square foot single level layout that was built and run for many, many years. It was on the upper story of an industrial building. We originally had a pretty good deal with a very sympathetic owner who gave us very good terms on his lease. But as the years went by, he passed away. It passed to his wife and then passed to his kids. And then they eventually sold the property. And we enjoyed many years with essentially below market rates for our lease because they really didn't renew the lease. And so we had a very, very favorable situation. However, the new owner, of course, got himself a nice property manager who convinced him if he ran out all the old original renters, the original lease owners in the different complexes, the different buildings in the complex, that he could get a lot more money. So the rent went up right about the time that COVID hit. So we were in the situation of salvaging the layout and then planning for a new layout. So there's more to that story. We can talk about that more in the questions, maybe if that comes up. But we were able to, with the help of the club president, who was buying a new building, and he was going to lease half of it back to us. And so that became what the new layout space, a very unusual looking space. So you see the layout space here. It was about 1,100 square feet. About half the square footage, and the other parts are what the owner of the building is using for his situation, for his business. So we have entered into a 7-year lease now, and so we're building a layout to fit that new space. So a little bit on the planning. We actually spent, I think, about a year, Lloyd, in doing the planning for the layout. We started out by surveying the membership and deciding, and discussing the features that we really wanted on the new layout, what was the most important and what was not. So we established a track planning and requirements document with really 12 requirements, and then 16 kind of it'd be nice to have preferences. One of the first things we had to do before we entered into a lease was to figure out, given that kind of unusual space, could we get a layout in there that we didn't have to have the layout designed yet, but we definitely needed to know, can we get a good layout that could achieve the, meet the requirements that we had set. So we started out by doodling, right? We used the doodling by squares approach with the 3-foot squares to see what we could get in there. Can we get the loops that we needed? Can we put in multiple levels? Can we, what could we do? And so we established feasibility that the space was usable for us. And then we looked at, the requirements drove us to wanting to do 2 levels so that we could achieve at least as long a runs as we had in the original single level layout that we had previously. And we had a lot of decisions to make along the way, including we had to look at what the levels of the different decks were. We decided to have a staging level. We started developing track schematics too that would tell us kind of how we would flow and run trains, right, from where to where we might put a helix, where the helixes would connect, and all those kinds of things. And you see just some kind of examples of some of the artifacts that we developed along the way, some of the documents and some of the planning that came into play. And so this is the track plan that was developed after, like I said, about a year of work. We developed the track plan. This is the middle level, so we're not going to dig into the details of all the details of the track plan, but some of the features are, right, there's this strange triangular shaped area that it was turned into. We'd put the dispatcher in there, and we do that. The dispatcher could duck under to go there, and that would be his location. Otherwise, right, we didn't want it to have to duck under. So, the main entrance is on, so you could call it the top here, the north side, and you can walk in with aisles that are at least 4 feet or more and get around to all the different areas of the layout. Right? We structured it with two different helixes, one connecting the middle and the upper level, and the other one connecting each level individually to the staging level, which is sitting below. Here's our nice harbor scene. And then we have a helix here. And so essentially the staging is comes out of the helix, goes underneath these 2 parts, loops around the harbor, and comes back. And so that's where the 3rd lowest level is. Let's see. With 2 levels plus staging, we actually have about a 600-foot main line, which is actually 100 feet longer than our original layout. So it's about 9.9 miles in HO scale, run it point to point, but it has a continuous loop option, essentially a balloon track around the staging that allows us to turn trains or to run continuously over the entire layout for open house or just run sessions. So the old layout was 500 feet of mainline track, so we improved that. So we like that, although, right, this time a fair amount of it is in the helixes. The upper level has a lot packed into it. Generally, it's a little bit, it's not quite as wide for better visibility and accessibility. And we packed a lot into this. In addition to the standard gauge main line that we have running on the upper level, we also have a standard gauge logging branch and a narrow gauge operations as well. Those were all things that we had on the previous layout, and those were all things that the membership really wanted to keep. So those became very important for us, right, to design into the layout. One of the things that we found to be very beneficial is one of our members has I guess on his for his job, he's like a graphic artist and has put together different things. We tasked him to build a 3D scale model of the entire layout in the oddly shaped room. It actually pulls apart for you can see a few seams in there. It actually slides, the 2 pieces slide apart, and you can actually get inside and look at it a little bit more. But this is the actual dimensions that we have here, and you can see different levels. This ended up being very useful, I think, in visualizing how the bench work would go together. And I'm going to turn it over to Lloyd to talk a little bit about that. So, Lloyd.
Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what you see here is actually it's a true scale representation of the room. And the room actually has 2 different heights depending on which of the 2 rooms you're in. But let's see, I don't know if, is my mouse active?
No, I think mine is though, Lloyd, if you want me
Okay,
to
all
point
right.
out
So,
anything.
what you can't see very well is over on the blue side, there's where the smaller helix is. It's right underneath that wall, so you can't see it there. But we built the section from right there down around the outside corner, then around the inside corner, right to where the dispatcher space will begin.
You can see
And
it also in this
yeah,
view,
you can
Lloyd,
see it
right?
much better in that view.
It's here. This is the part that we're building first.
Yeah. Now, okay, so let's go down to the next slide. Okay, what you can see here is here's some old guy, looks a lot like me. This is our first test of the helix, and God only knows it was the first helix we ever built, and it worked. It's a 30-inch radius helix, and this particular section is a 4.5 turn helix. We built it out of 1/2-inch plywood and used 1/4-inch threaded rod. And when we got all done, it's just solid as a rock. Let's see. We built all our own turnouts. We literally used fast tracks jigs and tie strips, and we had a total of 3 guys working on turnouts, and they've made about 120, 130 of them. We've got roughly another 100 to go. We're nowhere close to done, but we're building this in sections, so we've got a long time until we're going to need the ones that are yet to be built. We're laying down homosote in 1/4-inch and in 1/2-inch pieces, depending on the location. In this particular lection, we're standing next to Marty and Bob Myrtle. We're doing both directly on the plywood, which is all 1/2-inch ply, and we're also laying down a track that comes off the helix and actually is going around to the main yard. It gets 1/4-inch, and then all the rest of the area down here will get 1/2-inch homosote, just so there's a little bit of change in elevation to give it a little more feel. We've got 2 guys that are doing literally all the base wiring. We're building little boxes, as you can see over here in our red-shirted fellow. And what they're doing is there's one of these boxes in each section, and they're basically Digitrax DCC, and each set of sections has its own control, and the only thing they have in common going across them is some LCC stuff, which we'll get to later. Okay, next one. All right, so here you can see the helix, and this is where we started, right off on the right edge. And the helix we actually built totally out of wood. But if you notice, right where the soldering iron is sitting, underneath the wood, we have metal benchwork. And we use metal benchwork from here all the way around and it will keep using it all the way around to the helix that'll be coming up on the other area. What we've done is we ran full 1-to-1 sized prints, laid them down, copied them onto the plywood, and then started laying our homosote and our track based on that. Let's go around the corner. Okay, and here you see this is the outside corner. We went around from this corner to the back wall is approximately 26, 27 feet. And then you go into the far corner. You can't quite see all of it, but that's where the dispatcher's little space will be. Let's go on down to the next. Okay, Marty, it's all yours.
Well, we were just going to say a little bit. We have a legacy Digitrax system that we're using just for control of the locomotives and the track. We've decided to put in parallel with that a complete LCC system. We're using that to control the turnouts, block sensing, the signaling, all those kinds of things. We've teamed it up with JMRI. We're developing panels which will go on to touchscreen tablets that will be located. A variety of those will be located, in every major section of the layout, and we'll use the touchscreens to throw the turnouts. And we'll use the JMRI system to tie everything together. We'll have in the dispatcher station, we'll have control of the entire layout and the routing, and do the operations using JMRI as well. So that's our approach to that. So we've given quite a bit of thought, but I mean, the main thing that we're doing is we are really building that one section that Lloyd highlighted. We're building that first, the upper and the lower level, and the helix that connects them, and we're bringing the electronics all the way up to full capability as a test. We're testing everything. We're testing our techniques for the bench work, the techniques for track laying homosode, and the techniques for wiring. Right? We're testing all these things out in that. It's probably a quarter of the layout, Lloyd, maybe that we're doing first. And
I
we'll look from there.
guesstimated it was 2.5 sevenths.
2.5 sevenths. Okay.
There are 7 big walls that have to be dealt with, plus the helix that'll stick out in the middle of the room. So that's how I came up with the sevenths.
Right. Okay. So we have a plan for the complete layout, but we're developing this one section first, and it kind of, it means that we can get it up and running and testing right early, so that we know before any mistakes spread all the way around the layout, we're gonna wring out most of the problems that we're going to encounter in this section. Okay, I think that's mainly what we have. We just wanted to thank the audience and be happy with the opportunity to present here. So then we'll open it up to questions.
So how did you keep the group together? How long did you have from when you lost the old layout to the new layout? It sounds like it was a fairly short period of time, since this was basically at the beginning of COVID.
Not at all. It was almost 4 years.
So what things did you do during that 4 years to keep the membership together and kind of going, so people didn't kind of move?
Yeah, well, we're very lucky. We have 6 or 7 guys that have home layouts. And what we did is we actually decided that we would run trains on a regular basis. What we did is we actually said, okay, who wants to be the dispatcher? And the 6 of us with layouts, and anybody who wanted to go over to any of those guys' layouts and help. One of the guys has a 1,400 square foot layout, so he had 2 of the guys over helping him. I had 1 guy helping me. Marty's layout, I think he had 1 guy helping him. Well,
I had the advantage of I had both an inside and an outside layout, a garden railroad, that were connected in terms of operations. And so I could have, even during COVID, I could have a couple people outside, even during the restrictions and things. And so that was very helpful.
And what we did is we all got on Zoom together, and we had cameras actually showing our layouts. And what we would do is we made up a timetable. The dispatcher would send off the first train, and all we did is the train had all the car types that would be on the train. Plus we had 2 passenger trains we ran. And so what you do is, let's say I was starting, I would run my train from a designated spot on my layout that I said was the start point to as far as I could go on my layout. And then I would hand it off to the dispatcher to give it to the next guy. And he would pick up a train that had all the same car types in it, or anything that I had dropped off or picked up, he would then add to his train or take out and move it on to the next guy. And that kept us going quite a while. It actually used to take us about 3.5 hours to do this. We would start at 9:30 and we'd done about 2:30, 1 o'clock.
Interesting.
And that worked well. It really kept people going. We even invited outside people to watch, and we got a few guys from around the country to tune in. It was a fun experience.
As we evolved, I mean, we had someone that was essentially the the producer or the director, right? Or a narrator. And so he would be watching to see what cameras were looking good, and then he would highlight those. He would pin those into the Zoom so that people watching could see some of the activity.
Cool.
The other thing that we did was we quickly transitioned to Zoom when COVID hit, and we had to get a lot of people that had never used Zoom or anything like Zoom, get into it. Now, right now, it looks like everyone's pretty used to it, but at the beginning, that was quite an experience.
It's
But
amazing it's amazing what forced adoption through loneliness does to people. I mean,
Yes,
basically, when
yeah.
you can't see anybody physically, and the only way you can see them was on video, you learned video pretty quick. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I actually had a question about the layout, and there are two things I'm not sure I saw these right, but if I did, I wanted to kind of ask about it. The first was, it looked like the door you choose to make the main door in and out of the layout was the door into the other business space.
Yeah,
And that kind of surprised me.
Yeah, back up. Marty, let's go all the way back to the first image of our space versus Mike's space.
Yeah. Okay, you should be seeing that.
Okay, there's actually
you have to share your screen. You'll have to share your screen again.
Oh, okay.
I
Sorry.
unshared it so they could see us, so it wasn't just a
very
static
good.
image.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we actually have, you see up at the top, it says Governor Street.
Yep.
That's our ADA accessible ramp at the back, and it goes into a hallway. That hallway comes down and includes our door, which you see the mouse at. That's our main access. Between that hallway and the Governor Street entrance are two bathrooms and a hallway that goes back to the telecom room.
Okay.
But in addition to that, in that hallway it goes into a large storage space and a space with a conference room and two offices. We have shared space in the hallway and use of the bathrooms and use of the conference room whenever it's not in use by the owner and his business. And then
that
what
kind
we
of
do,
explains it.
technically the public entrance is down at the bottom under where it says space.
Right.
That's a double door entrance that we, from a legal standpoint, when we're operating with open to the public, we'll have a lift out that comes out of there, and we'll have to keep both doors open. So the fire exit space is through that door and then out through the Governor Street entrance.
Right.
Right, and we have a card access system that allows the members access to the hallway, the common space that Lloyd described, and the layout, but not the other parts of the building.
We talked about how we actually have another set of double doors right where the words LAMRS are below the other door that are over there, but we decided to close those off because we wanted to have our harbor scene there, and the harbor scene requires almost has no access to the inside. So what you do is you open the upper door and then you can actually climb in there. And that's it. That's as far as we went.
Just out of curiosity, how high are your ceilings?
In the lower room, the one with the harbor scene in it, we're at 8 feet, and in the upper room that has the two helixes in it, the part where the helixes are is at 20 feet. It's really high. Excuse me, 10 feet. Yeah, right. It's 10 feet, and we actually have cabinets along two of the walls up there that are not over the helix, and the room just where you get between the two spaces, it drops down to 8 feet for about 4 feet into the 10-foot ceiling room.
Yeah. The reason I was asking is I've been to a couple of layouts that have these vertical slider lift outs, especially when you got a dual deck where both decks go up and down together. You use that 80-20 aluminum and build something. It's very, very well.
That's very funny because my layout has one of those.
At that door, that would be ideal if that's going to be a public door to get it in and out. But Cool. Does anyone else have any questions? I'm kind of any other final questions from the New Tracks community?
I do have one question.
Sure, Henry.
I see that all of this is going together very nicely, and it's a beautiful job from what I see. Do you have something for everybody to work on and participate? Or it looks here mostly like it's for people with great skill?
Actually,
being able to work in there?
we have something for everybody who wants to participate to do something. We have approximately 10 people that don't have, you know, full-time jobs. And we have actually, let's see, Marty's part-time retired. I'm full-time retired. I think we have 6 guys that are full-time retired, and we're down there 2 days a week. Mondays and Thursdays we're down there. We start at 10 in the morning. We work until officially 2, but we really don't get cleaned up and out of there until about 3:30. So those are our 2 work days, and then our regular club night is Tuesday night from 7 to 9. And so everybody else that wants to come down can come down. Anybody in the LA area that would like to come down and get some sawdust in their hair, they're welcome too. It looks a lot cleaner than it actually is.
Oh,
And only I would actually only 3 of us are actually guys with formal carpentry skills. Myself, Mike Artner, our president, and we have one guy who's actually a general carpenter, and he was trained by his dad as a cabinet maker. And, but he's still working full time, so we only see him on rare occasion. He built our cabinets for us. He sawed all the wood, brought it all over, and then we built all the cabinets ourselves and put them up with his help.
There's a question in the chat, which is a good one. We should mention, I don't know if we emphasized it, but the owner of the building is actually our club president. So we have a very favorable owner. We have a lease set up that is pretty firm at up to the 5-year point, easy to extend to at least 7 years. If we end up hating each other, there's a provision to pull out after 3. We're planning for 5. In doing that, right, we decided the layout should also come apart. It's not modular in the sense that we can just plug it back together if we have to move. But we are trying to design in the ability, unlike our former layout that was, I don't know, built like some kind of battleship. We had to cut it out with saws, right, to get it apart. It didn't salvage much of the layout itself. So we're designing it so that sections can come apart and can come out of there, but it's still a fair amount of work. It's really hard to make a layout this complicated that would be fully modular, which, right, is what some people might try to do.
We're probably going to lose the inside corners and some of the outside corners, but the layout is actually the main section, or the mid-level section, is 1/2-inch plywood on 1x3 outside frames, and then any inside structural additional supporting we add in, and it just sits on top of the metal framework that holds it up off the ground. And then we screw them together. They have a maximum length of 6 feet and are 24 inches deep. The uppers are basically a similar design, except they're only 18 inches deep. They have the same 6-foot maximum length. And they're mostly on T-brackets that we've welded up ourselves and screwed to every other stud.
Maybe at some point it'd be great to come back and talk a bit after you've gotten the construction done. You get that first section done. I think also the idea of kind of trying to build it in stages is good, because that way, once you get the bench work and some track done in one area, you can move on and other people can move in for, scenery and other things. But I think that probably brings us kind of to the end. That was great, guys. Really inspirational for those of us in clubs that know we may need to look for a home at some time. I want to give you a round from the New Tracks community, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely, and we hope you will come back for some additional information, because it's fascinating what you're doing and how your club survived COVID. I think that's just an outstanding idea. I haven't heard anybody else talk about what you guys accomplished to get around the COVID situation and losing your space at the same time. So congratulations and best wishes.
Okay, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.